Every morning, before the sun rose over the city, a young African woman quietly unlocked the gates of mansions she could never afford to enter as a guest. She polished marble floors worth more than her entire village. She cleaned swimming pools bigger than the river where she grew up. She served breakfast to billionaires who never even learned her name. To them, she wasn't Amina. She was simply the maid. One afternoon, while cleaning beside a luxurious private swimming pool, she noticed a black leather wallet lying on the ground. She slowly opened it. Inside, bundles of cash. Nearly $50,000. No cameras. No guards. No witnesses. That money could pay for her younger brother's life-saving surgery. It could buy her mother a real home. It could end every hardship she had ever known. She stared at the money, then quietly closed the wallet. She ran after the old billionaire. "Sir, you forgot this." The billionaire looked into her eyes for a long moment and smiled. 3 weeks later, he was dead. His greedy family gathered to inherit billions, until a lawyer walked into the mansion, holding one white envelope. On the front, only 3 words were written. For the maid. Nobody inside that room realized that one simple letter was about to change Africa forever. The city of Lagos never truly slept. Long before the wealthy woke up, Amina was already working. At 24 years old, she cleaned 5 different billionaire homes every single day. Her hands were rough from years of scrubbing marble. Her shoes were worn thin. But she never complained, because every dollar she earned went home. Home wasn't a mansion. It was a tiny house with a leaking roof on the edge of the city. Inside lived her widowed mother and her 12-year-old brother, Musa. Musa had a serious heart condition. Every month the hospital demanded money they didn't have. Every month Amina worked harder. Some nights, she skipped dinner, just so Musa could have his medicine. One rainy morning, Amina arrived at the largest mansion she cleaned. It belonged to Daniel Okoye, one of the richest businessmen in Africa. People called him the King of Steel. His companies built bridges, airports, hospitals, entire cities. His fortune was worth billions. The mansion itself looked more like a palace. Luxury cars filled the driveway. Private security stood at every entrance. Inside, crystal chandeliers sparkled above polished marble floors. Amina quietly began cleaning. She moved carefully, invisible, just as the family expected. Daniel's children were already arguing over breakfast. Victor, the eldest son, only cared about expanding his luxury lifestyle. His younger brother, Eric, gambled millions every year. Their sister, Vanessa, spent fortunes on designer clothes and extravagant parties. None of them visited their father unless they needed money. Daniel watched silently from the balcony. He noticed something nobody else noticed. While everyone ignored the maid, she smiled at every servant. She thanked the gardeners. She even shared her lunch with the security guards. Kindness, without expecting anything in return. That afternoon, Daniel finished swimming. He walked back inside after receiving an urgent phone call. Without realizing it, his wallet slipped from his pocket. Minutes later, Amina discovered it beside the pool. She froze. The cash inside could solve every problem in her life. Her hands trembled. She thought about Musa. She imagined paying for his surgery. She imagined her mother finally smiling again. No one would ever know. But then, she remembered something her late father used to say. A clean heart is worth more than a full pocket. She closed the wallet and ran through the enormous mansion. "Sir." Daniel turned around. "You dropped this." The billionaire opened the wallet. Every dollar was still inside. For several seconds, he simply stared at her. "Did you count it?" Amina smiled softly. "No, sir." "It's your money?" Daniel asked quietly. "If nobody had seen you, why return it?" She answered without hesitation. "Because I still have to live with myself tomorrow. For the first time in years." Daniel smiled from the heart. The next day, Amina expected nothing. Instead, Daniel invited her into his private library. She became nervous. She had never even entered that room before. Books lined every wall. Old paintings covered the ceiling. Daniel poured 2 cups of tea. Then asked, "Amina, if someone gave you $1 billion today, what would you buy first?" She looked out the window. Across the street, she saw children playing barefoot. After a long silence, she answered, "I wouldn't buy a bigger house. I wouldn't buy expensive cars. I'd build hospitals, so no mother has to choose between food and medicine. I'd build schools, so poor children can dream bigger than poverty." Daniel slowly nodded. He wasn't listening to her words anymore. He was looking at her character. Over the next 2 weeks, Daniel quietly watched Amina. She returned extra change whenever shopkeepers made mistakes. She carried groceries for elderly neighbors after work. She gave half her lunch to a homeless child. Not once did she realize someone was watching. Daniel finally understood something painful. The poorest person in his life had the richest heart. His own children had everything, yet they were never satisfied. Amina had almost nothing, yet she still gave. One evening, Daniel called his personal lawyer. "I've made my decision." The lawyer looked surprised. "Are you certain?" Daniel smiled. "I've never been more certain." 3 days later, everything changed. While attending an important business meeting, Daniel suddenly collapsed. Doctors rushed him to the hospital. News spread across the country. The billionaire was dying. His children filled the hospital room. Not because they feared losing their father, but because they feared losing their inheritance. Late that night, Daniel quietly took his final breath. Outside, television cameras gathered. Across the city, people mourned a business legend. Inside the family mansion, his children secretly celebrated. Victor smiled. "Tomorrow, we become billionaires." 3 days after the funeral, the entire family gathered inside the grand conference hall. Executives, lawyers, relatives, business partners. Everyone expected the fortune to remain inside the family. Then, the doors slowly opened. Daniel's oldest lawyer entered carrying a single white envelope. He looked around the silent room, then spoke. Mr. Daniel Okoye left one personal letter. He raised the envelope. On the front, written in Daniel's own handwriting, were 3 simple words. For the maid. The conference hall fell into complete silence. More than 200 people stared at the white envelope. Executives, business partners, government officials. Even the security guards looked confused. Victor slowly stood up. "What nonsense is this?" The lawyer didn't answer. He calmly broke the wax seal, adjusted his glasses, and began reading. To everyone gathered here, if you are hearing this letter, it means I have finally left this world. Before my children interrupt, let me finish. Several people exchanged nervous glances. The lawyer continued. Many of you believe my greatest achievement was building a billion-dollar empire. You are wrong. My greatest achievement was finding one honest person in a world full of greedy people. Victor rolled his eyes. Michael laughed quietly. Vanessa folded her arms. None of them expected what came next. 3 weeks ago, one person found $50,000 beside my swimming pool. She could have disappeared forever. Nobody would have blamed her. Instead, she returned every dollar. That woman was my maid. Amina. The entire room turned toward her. Amina froze. She lowered her head. I was only doing the right thing. The lawyer raised his hand. There is more. After that day, I secretly watched her. Not with cameras, but with my own eyes. She gave food to hungry children. She helped elderly strangers. She worked 16 hours every day, yet never complained. Meanwhile, my own children, who had everything, wanted even more. Victor slammed his fist onto the table. This is ridiculous. You can't compare a maid to us. The lawyer looked directly at him. I haven't finished. Therefore, I leave my entire business empire. Mensa Steel. Okoye Airlines. Okoye Hospitals. My hotels. My farms. My shipping company. My private jet. Every share. Every bank account. Every investment. Everything I own belongs to Amina. Silence. Absolute silence. Then, the room exploded. Victor jumped to his feet. She's just a maid. Michael threw his chair across the room. Vanessa screamed. This is fraud. Relatives began shouting. Executives looked at each other in disbelief. Television reporters outside heard the noise. Within minutes, breaking news flashed across the country. Billionaire leaves entire fortune to maid. Amina couldn't breathe. There has to be a mistake. I don't want this. The lawyer smiled gently. I expected you to say that. He reached inside the briefcase again. There is one more thing. He removed a small black flash drive. Mr. Daniel instructed me to play this immediately. The giant television screen lit up. Daniel appeared. Weak, but smiling. If you're watching this, my children are probably angry. Victor shouted at the screen. You manipulated him. Daniel continued speaking. You see, this is exactly why I chose Amina. You are proving my decision was right. The room became quiet. Daniel looked straight into the camera. For months, I investigated my own family. I wanted to know who loved me and who loved my money. Pictures began appearing on the screen. Victor secretly transferring company money into private accounts. Michael gambling millions inside illegal casinos. Vanessa selling confidential company information to competitors. Gasps filled the room. The evidence was undeniable. Then Daniel smiled. But Amina, you've probably spent your whole life wondering why I trusted you. He paused. There is something you don't know. The room became silent again. 5 years ago, my car crashed on a lonely highway. I was trapped. My driver was unconscious. Everyone drove past. Except one young woman. Amina frowned. She slowly stepped closer to the screen. The video changed. Old security footage appeared. A young woman breaking a car window with a rock. Pulling an injured man to safety. Calling an ambulance. Giving him her own jacket. Then quietly walking away. Without asking his name. Without asking for money. Without waiting for thanks. The woman was Amina. Tears rolled down her face. I remember that accident. I never knew. Daniel smiled. You saved my life. You didn't recognize me. But I never forgot you. The room was speechless. Victor looked terrified. His inheritance was gone. His secrets had been exposed. And now, everyone knew why the maid had been chosen. He quietly whispered to Michael. She's ruined us. Michael leaned closer. Then she doesn't leave this building. The board meeting ended. Executives surrounded Amina. Some congratulated her. Others simply smiled. For the first time, people looked at her with respect. Not because she was rich, but because they finally understood who she was. Outside, hundreds of journalists waited. Cameras flashed. Microphones filled the entrance. Amina, how does it feel to become Africa's richest woman? She smiled softly. I'm still the same person. The only difference is now I can help more people. Millions watched the interview live. Across the country. People applauded. But not everyone. That same night, inside a dark warehouse, Victor sat around the table with several dangerous men. He pushed a black suitcase across the table. Inside, stacks of cash. I don't want the company anymore. I want the woman. The leader of the criminals smiled. It all looked like an accident. Victor stood up. No mistakes. Tomorrow, the maid disappears forever. The following afternoon, Amina left company headquarters after approving free medical insurance for every employee. She smiled. For the first time, she felt Daniel would have been proud. Her black luxury car slowly pulled onto the highway. A delivery truck suddenly swerved into her lane. The driver slammed the brakes. Another SUV appeared behind them. Then another. 3 black vehicles boxed them in. The truck accelerated straight toward Amina's car. Her driver shouted, "Ma'am!" The road disappeared beneath screaming tires. Glass shattered. Metal twisted. The luxury sedan spun wildly across the highway. Before crashing through the roadside barrier. Everything went dark. Far away. Police sirens echoed. And someone inside the burning vehicle was still moving. The room exploded into confusion. Amina stood frozen near the back of the hall. She had only come to clean. She never imagined the billionaire's final message was meant for her. Smoke filled the air. The black luxury sedan had crashed through the roadside barrier and rolled down a small embankment. The engine hissed. Broken glass covered the road. Inside the car, Amina slowly opened her eyes. Blood ran down her forehead. Her driver was unconscious. She tried to open the door. It wouldn't move. Then, she smelled gasoline. The car was leaking fuel. Outside, 3 masked men climbed down the hill. One carried a metal rod. Another held a gasoline can. The third slowly pulled out a lighter. One of them smiled. The boss said, "No witnesses." Amina closed her eyes. So this is how it ends. Suddenly, police sirens echoed through the valley. Dozens of police vehicles surrounded the highway. The masked men panicked. Run! Before they could escape. Armed officers blocked every direction. Detective Sarah Okafor stepped out. "Drop your weapons." Within seconds, the criminals were arrested. Amina had survived. But she finally understood. Daniel's children would never stop. Until they lost everything. That same night, Detective Sarah visited Amina in the hospital. She placed a thick file on the bedside table. "We questioned one of the attackers." Amina looked up. He confessed. He said Victor paid them. Amina closed her eyes. She wasn't surprised. Sarah continued. We can arrest him. But we need stronger evidence. Amina remembered Daniel's final video. There has to be more. The lawyer suddenly entered the room, holding another envelope. Daniel had written one last message. The following morning, Amina, the lawyer, and Detective Sarah entered Daniel's private office. The lawyer walked toward a large painting. Hidden behind it was a fingerprint scanner. The scanner recognized Daniel's saved fingerprint from hospital records. A heavy steel door slowly opened. Inside, rows of locked cabinets. One cabinet had a golden label. Final evidence. The lawyer unlocked it. Inside were dozens of files. Hard drives. Bank records. Contracts. Secret recordings. And another video. Daniel appeared on the screen. If you've reached this room, it means my children chose greed over family. He sighed. For 10 years, I secretly documented every crime they committed. The screen filled with evidence. Victor laundering millions through fake companies. Michael paying bribes. Vanessa forging company documents. Even recordings of them discussing Amina's murder. The room became silent. Daniel looked into the camera. I built this empire, but they nearly destroyed it. Amina, if you're watching this, protect the people, not the money. The video ended. Detective Sarah smiled. We have everything we need. 2 hours later, police surrounded Victor's luxury mansion. Helicopters flew overhead. Television crews broadcast everything live. Victor stepped outside. Still confident. You have no proof. Detective Sarah handed him an arrest warrant. You are under arrest for fraud, attempted murder, money laundering, and conspiracy. Victor laughed. Then the police played Daniel's recording. His smile disappeared. Handcuffs clicked around his wrist. Michael and Vanessa were arrested the same morning. Across Africa, millions watched the billionaire family fall. 3 months later, the courtroom was packed. Journalists came from around the world. Every crime was exposed. Every stolen dollar. Every secret account. Every assassination plan. The judge stood. The evidence is overwhelming. He looked directly at Victor. You betrayed your father. You betrayed your company. And you attempted to murder an innocent woman. I sentence you to 25 years in prison. Michael received 20 years. Vanessa received 15. Justice had finally arrived. Outside the courthouse, thousands of employees waited. When Amina walked out, they applauded. Some cried. Others simply smiled. One elderly janitor stepped forward. I worked for Mr. Daniel for 30 years. He shook Amina's hand. Today, I know he made the right choice. Amina smiled. I'll never forget where I came from. Months later, the company changed completely. Executive salaries were reduced. Factory workers received better pay. Health insurance became free. Children of every employee received scholarships. Profits still increased. Because people finally worked for a leader who cared about them. The first project Amina approved was the hospital she had dreamed about. Then another. And another. Soon, hospitals stood across villages that had never had doctors. Schools opened where children once studied beneath trees. Clean water reached communities forgotten for generations. People no longer called her the maid. They called her Africa's mother of hope. One sunny afternoon, Amina stood outside the largest children's hospital in the country. Beside her stood her younger brother, Musa. Years earlier, he had almost died because they couldn't afford treatment. Now, he wore a white doctor's coat. I graduated today. He smiled proudly. And I'm staying here. I want to save children. Just like someone once tried to save me. Amina hugged him tightly. Their mother wiped away happy tears. A few weeks later, a bronze statue was unveiled outside the hospital. It showed an elderly billionaire standing beside a humble young maid. At the bottom, a simple message was engraved. Character is the greatest inheritance anyone can leave behind. Amina gently placed a white rose beneath the statue. She whispered, "Thank you. You didn't just change my life. You helped me change millions." A soft breeze moved through the trees. She smiled. For the first time in years, she felt completely at peace. 5 years later, the company had become Africa's most trusted business. Millions of families had access to healthcare. Thousands of students attended schools funded by the foundation. Employees proudly called the company a family. Not because of wealth, but because of kindness. As the sun set over the city, Amina looked across the skyline. She remembered the frightened maid who once cleaned marble floors before sunrise. She remembered the wallet, the letter, the betrayal, the accident, the courtroom. Every painful step had led her here. She realized something Daniel had always known. Money can build an empire, but only kindness can build a legacy.